In our last set of episodes about the Fantastic Four, much of our focus was on their classic foe Victor Von Doom, best known perhaps as Doctor Doom. The Doctor united the disparate forces of the reborn Earth under his banner. With their skills, they were able to teleport the entire reborn Earth out of its natural pocket dimension into reality proper, just on the opposite side of the sun from Earth. Doing so freed the Apostate, an ancient celestial who had been exiled by its fellows back at the dawn of time. Due to its ability to manipulate dreams, the Apostate's cruel experiments with the sentience of the universe were just too dangerous, so it was sealed in a tomb with safeguards put in place to keep it there. Now that it had been freed, though, the Apostate sought to merge the reborn Earth with Earth, thus giving him control over it. But the Fantastic Four allied with Doom and his four commanders, and they managed to seal the Apostate once again. Victory came at a cost, though. Only the former Celestial, Ashima, could withstand the energies that were unleashed in the act of binding the Apostate. This kept the Four and the commanders from acting to save their respective leaders. A bright burst of light filled the room, and when everyone's vision returned, only Dr. Doom was left standing. Now, both groups watch the survivor carefully. He climbs atop the rubble and raises his arms. Blue energy crackles from his hands as he proudly declares that he is Dr. Doom! Valeria Von Doom, the alternate future daughter of the Doctor, rushes towards her father's arms. Relieved to see him alive, she hugs him with all of her might. And Doom actually hugs her back. Doom's aide, Lancer, notes this carefully. Sue Storm Richards, Reed's wife, the Invisible Woman, confronts Doom, asking after her husband. What happened here? Is Reed alive? Is he dead? Doom doesn't flinch at her rage or questions. He did nothing here. They battled the Apostate together. There was a light, a booming laughter, a searing pain, and then he was left standing alone. On Doom's honor, that is the truth. The Thing knows that Doom's definition of honor is a personal one, though, and he doesn't really trust that story. But instead of pressing the point right now, he turns to Ashima. They came to this place to save the Earth. So, did they? Ashima confirms that they did. Both Earths have been saved, and now all is as it was before the attempted world merging. Even Doom's flagship has been restored to what it once was. The Fantastic Four and the Commanders then begin to assign blame and argue with each other over who did what wrong, but a transmission from the flagship interrupts them all. There are intruders in the canyon, although scans show that their weapons aren't really notable. Should they, reduce them to ash? Doom recognizes the intruders immediately. One of them is Wyatt Wingfoot, a member of the indigenous tribe called the Kiwazi. This celestial tomb was built on the Kiwazi's land, and as he's a tribal leader, he is investigating. Dorma thinks that they should kill these intruders immediately, but Doom talks her down. Killing them would only draw the attention of the authorities. Better that they use more subtle methods instead. The group is then teleported from the tomb to Doom's flagship. The Fantastic Four are captured, but they are to be treated well. After all, they stood alongside Doom as he saved Earth. He then engages the flagship's cloaking device, and it vanishes right before Wingfoot's eyes. Spooked by this, Wingfoot shoots a video of the craft to the Avengers and the Fantastic Four, because he doesn't know that they are here, and at Avengers Mansion, they recognize that ship with chills. They now know that Dr. Doom has returned to Earth. On said ship, Doom orders everyone, including his Doombots, to leave him be. Once they all exit the room and Doom is by himself, he collapses into a chair. Thank God for Doom demanding blind obedience from everyone around him, says Reed Richards, a.k.a. Mr. Fantastic of the Fantastic Four. He recalls the recent events in more detail for our sake, confirming what Doom told the Four earlier, but adding some ideas. While the Apostate was being bound again, he decided to get revenge on Reed and Doom, so he promised to trap them in a terrible nightmare. Then he tore Doom's armor off of him and put it on Reed. Doom was teleported elsewhere, and Reed has been forced to play along. So far, the armor can't be opened or removed, he's checked, but Reed isn't one to give up either. If the Apostate thinks that this trap is infallible, well, he'll be in for a rude awakening. In the meantime, Reed takes to studying a holographic representation of the flagship and its capabilities. If he adds in the forces that are held in the ship, plus the commanders in a battle against Earth's superpowered defenders, well, that is a war that could destroy the world. Those are the stakes for our next few issues. Reed Richards has to, for all intents and purposes, be Dr. Doom in order to keep the peace. Or 2 worlds get destroyed. So, no pressure, right? My name is Ben, and this is Comic Book Breakdown, episode 12.22, The Man in the Iron Mask. Originally published back in February of 2000, Fantastic Four issue 26 was written by Chris Claremont, penciled by Salvador Larroca, inked by Art Thibaert, and it was colored by Liquid. And it is a pretty solid opening that we get here. Obviously, Claremont does his usual work here at the beginning of the issue, recapping the recent events with far too much dialogue. We get resolutions to our vague threat from the previous issue, meaning the merging of worlds. The Apostate has also been neatly put away, but that doesn't mean that all is well. Dorma, one of Doom's commanders, is demanding death and conquering as soon as the Apostate's threat has passed, demonstrating that the commander's hunger for more. Then we have Reed examine the flagship, and he sees even more threats, setting up the stakes, and they're pretty darn cool. I won't lie, I don't know that I quite buy that the amount of danger is correct. Yes, the commanders are power-hungry, and they are dangerous in their own right, but they're also just 4 people. Sure, Doom also has an army in that ship, but it is a conventional army, and it's just the amount that's in that ship. The troops aren't endless. Are you really trying to tell me that the Earth can't handle that? I have literally read comics where one team of superpowered individuals can turn back an invading armada, so an army and 4 people just doesn't really impress me. Plus, those 4 people have been beaten in combat by the Fantastic Four once already. So, come on, man, get out of here with that ish. As important as that idea is, the real thing worth noting in the beginning of this issue are Claremont and Larroca's hints about the idea that Reed is trapped in Doom's armor. There is a very clear shot of Doom's face, and his now blue eyes, despite the fact that Victor Von Doom's eyes are normally brown. Of course, we have the hug with Valeria as the most obvious hint. You could read this moment as Valeria's bravery in the battle impressing her father enough to earn his love so that he hugs her back. But that is kind of unlikely, and it's just not a very Doom thing to do. Maybe I could see him letting her hug him, but I don't think that Doom would return the hug. Thankfully, Lancer seems to be the only one who noticed it, and that has not been forgotten. Lancer creeps up on Doom from the shadows. Then she pounces, wrapping her arms around his neck. He flips her over before her plasma claws can do any damage at close range, but she twists after she smashes into a table, launching solar fire at him. But those heat claws are blocked by a force field from Valeria. She comes out of nowhere saying that she can't let Lancer hurt him. Their plan is too important. Reed then talks Lancer down. He basically explains about the threat of the commanders, and she begrudgingly agrees to go along with them, for now. But if Lancer thinks that she needs to take Reed down, then she will do so without hesitation. Elsewhere, the commanders, who are the super-strong Atlantean queen Dorma, who is armed with a sword, the battle mage Shakti, the techno-organic alien technarchs and the inky goo that is divinity battle with 3/4 of the Fantastic Four. The Invisible Woman does a pretty good job of handling divinity and technarchs, but Dorma moves in to attack her while she is distracted. Shakti, meanwhile, conjures silk strands to wrap up the Thing, but the Human Torch burns them off before he can be further hurt. Dorma presses her attack on the Invisible Woman, bashing into her force field until it finally breaks, and then she cuts off her no swearing head. The training exercise freezes. Dorma, caught up in her battle lust, is like, dudes, WTF? Technarchs points out that Sue Storm would not just sit there while Dorma pounded on her shield, nor would the Human Torch or the Thing fail to respond to her being in such danger. Proceeding with the simulation under such inaccurate pretenses wouldn't teach them anything of use. Shakti then adds that the Fantastic Four fight as a unit, and to combat them effectively, they will need to do the same. Dorma sneers at the thought, though. She won her throne by force of arms. The only way to deal with your enemies is to kill them. She then swings her sword twice, beheading the Human Torch and Thing robots. I like this little scene. Having just said that the commanders are dangerous enough to threaten the Earth, Claremont knows that as readers, we might be skeptical. So here we have a scene demonstrating just how dangerous they can be. And this is just in a practice round, so in actual combat they would probably be even more deadly. It also serves to demonstrate some personality differences amongst the group, who have been fairly one-note so far. Shakti and Technarchs are clearly willing to change up their battle tactics and learn from them. They have seen how skilled the Fantastic Four are, and they want to be prepared for the next round. Dorma, however, in her arrogance and pride, isn't willing to change. She only thinks in terms of pure strength. That's an interesting power balance between them all, as it also forces Dorma into a more dominant leadership position, as she is always pushing them to do more, where Shakti and Technarchs are more reactive forces. Elsewhere, the surviving members of the Fantastic Four rest, or fail to rest, in a very large, spacious room. They have collars around their neck, indicating that they are prisoners, and Johnny is anxious to do something about it, but Ben isn't concerned at all, even when Johnny accuses him of being happy that Reed is gone. This is your payback for him turning you into the Thing, isn't it? But Ben just smiles and kicks back. He ain't worried about it. They'll be fine. Lancer then enters the room, and all of them turn to look at her. Sue exclaims that Lancer isn't alone. She can see another invisible party entering the room. Valeria turns off her own cloaking device, greets the group, and then Reed as Doom enters. But the Fantastic Four still don't know at this point that this is Reed. So Sue and Johnny are pretty vexed to see him at first, naturally. Sue wants to know what it is that Doom wants, and so he explains. He wants Sue to send Valeria to Haven, where they sent Franklin before the Chaos Storm hit, back in issue 24's ending. Valeria protests at being sent away, and they are all unnerved that Doom knows about Haven somehow, but he insists, and undoes all of their collars. Franklin went with Caledonia, yes, and so she can protect him, but he should also have family with him. Plus, the Fantastic Four are a team. With Valeria here, Doom fears that he is going to be too distracted by worry for her, and not be able to operate at full efficiency. He needs to know that she's safe, so she needs to go to Haven. Doom turns to Sue. He's done the math to identify the proper frequencies for Valeria's force field, too. That way, she won't need a craft like Franklin did. She can just use her force field to protect herself on her journey. But only if Sue will trust Doom enough to do it. Johnny protests going along with any of that. If Doom wants it, then it must be bad. Strangely enough, though, Sue kinda believes Dr. Doom. She'll do it. Valeria hugs Sue first. Johnny assures her that no matter what happens, they are her family. Ben just accepts a peck on his cheek. Remember to write, kiddo. Valeria hugs Doom last, telling her daddy goodbye. Doom tries to protest. He isn't her father, but Valeria just hugs him harder. Yes, he is, in all the ways that matter. Sue then cracks her crystal. Doing so sends up a signal to Haven, and they open their end of the portal. Valeria steps through that portal, and everyone now turns to Doom. He says that the clock is ticking. The ship's systems will have registered that energy transference. They could be interrupted at any time. So Sue glares at him. "Who are you?" Ben just smiles. "What, you ain't figured it out yet? Come on, guys, that's Reed under that armor." Sue can't believe that. Okay, if you're Reed, then take off the mask. But Johnny argues that removing the mask won't really prove anything. Doom has swapped his face for Reed's before, and only in older Fantastic Four comics could I see that. It's probably fairly recently. I do actually know that Doom's pretty good at being like a master of disguise kind of thing. The dude's got lots of skills under his belt, but that just seems like such a silly plot. So even if it is Reed's face, they couldn't trust that this isn't some kind of trick on Doom's part. Reed agrees with that, explaining that he can't remove the armor at this point anyways. Sue smiles at the challenge. "Yeah, we'll see about that." Ben says that tampering with the armor is probably not a good idea. Whatever defenses Doom has built into it probably won't take kindly to the suit being tampered with. For all they know, they could kill Reed just trying to remove it. Johnny, however, can't believe that Ben would fall for this crap so easily, but Ben takes his doubt well. He's known Reed for longer than any of them, even Sue. "His actions, his words, the way he moves, that is 100% Reed Richards, guys. He knows it." And keeping up the charade makes perfect sense to him, and here he points at Lancer, re-explaining the danger of the commanders, in case you missed it the last 2 times. But then, the wall explodes. The commanders, led by Dorma and followed by an army, stand ready for combat. They did indeed sense the energy discharge, and they are here to back Doom up. And look, the Fantastic Four's collars have been removed. They're all trying to escape. We better kill them. Doom steps in front of the 4, defending them. Their collars are off because Doom has reached an agreement with them. Yes, so there is no need for violence here. Dorma, however, is unwilling to accept that. The Fantastic Four and Doom are enemies eternal. This is a trick on their part. He can't possibly afford to trust them, and they all belong in graves. Doom cocks his head. Is that a challenge? Reed, as Doom, then fights his own commanders, and he absolutely no swearing wrecks them. The battle ends with each one of them on their asses, especially Dorma. Reed plunges her own sword into the ground before her, staring down at her. Quote, "To defy Doom is to call doom upon your own head." End quote. He then helps her up, assuring her that his mercy shall not be repeated. The Queen might have lost this fight, but she isn't broken yet. As a sovereign ruler in her own right, Dorma needs assurances in more than words that the Fantastic Four are sincere. She then proposes that the Invisible Woman marry Dr. Doom since her husband is gone, sanctifying their alliance in the oldest political way possible. Bristling at the idea, Doom tries to get out of it, but Shakti backs Dorma up. Sue accepts the offer before anyone can honestly say otherwise. If Doom shall have her, then she shall become his consort. Doom offers her his hand. Then so be it. Let the world greet Baroness Von Doom. Man, that's a good ending. What else was good? Well, first off, the cover is neat. We've got Dr. Doom lounging on a throne, raising a goblet in a toast, but he has on a blue Fantastic Four jersey now. The Human Torch and the Thing stand at his side, while the Invisible Woman kneels at his feet, looking up at him lovingly. Despite the twist of Doom actually being Reed in this issue, this cover sells it as if Doom has taken over the Fantastic Four. That is a great hook, and even the issue box in the upper left-hand corner, which gives you the issue number and the publication company, and it features the headshots of the Fantastic Four, now has Doom in the place of Reed Richards. That's cute, and all of this issue is rendered beautifully by Salvador Larroca. Perhaps the best thing about this issue is that we are finally lining up story elements with issue 15's glimpse of a possible future. This was back when the Fantastic Four were on the moon, caught up in Ronan's scheme, and the energies released by the Watcher's protective shields and Ronan's universal weapons were causing disruptions in reality. One of those disruptions gave Reed, Ben, and Johnny a glimpse of the future. One in which Reed Richards had died on a mission, Dr. Doom had taken his place on the team, and Sue had married him, all leading to the birth of Valeria Von Doom. So, now all we're going to need is for Sue to get pregnant and give birth, and we have a possible future realized. Once again, Claremont's long game is on point. The single worst thing about this issue is that Claremont explains the bit about a conflict between Earth and the Commanders being so bad that no one can possibly risk it 3 times. And that might seem like a minor thing, like, is this really the worst thing in the whole comic, Ben? And look, it takes Chris Claremont about 5 or 6 paragraphs to talk about this threat each time he does one of those moments, using almost the same dialogue each time. And he does it 3 separate times. Reed tells the audience / himself at the beginning, he and Valeria tell Lancer of the danger, and then Ben tells the remaining half of the Fantastic Four the danger before we have the challenge at the very end. And that's with Claremont not only setting up how dangerous the Commanders are with that training scene. It gets really old by the time you finish this issue, and it just eats up time that could have been better spent exploring our cast. For example, despite how important Lancer was to Doom's narrative on Reborn Earth, and how important her trust here could be in selling Reed as Doom, she just quickly agrees to work with the man whose family, abandoned her planet to chaos, who she has been raging against for the past several months. The rest of the Fantastic Four get little screen time as well, and while all of those moments with them do work, expanding the camera time would certainly help, especially in regards to Valeria, whose presence here is so pointless that Claremont literally writes her out of the story. And even then, I don't really buy that she would leave. So far, Valeria has been a well-intentioned, if headstrong and reckless, force as part of the Fantastic Four, rushing headlong into dangers that her adopted family would rather she just didn't. But she is also a super genius, almost on par with someone like Reed Richards or Dr. Doom herself. So when she hugs Doom and he returns the hug, she figures out, much like Lancer and Ben do, that Doom is not Von Doom anymore. While that isn't outright stated, I can believe that and rely on that inference, and it's fine. But when we next see Valeria defending Doom from Lancer's attack, she tells Lancer that she can't let Lancer hurt him because he is important to their plans. And again, I have to work on inference here. Valeria was in the room when Reed was talking to himself, reading the situation and its dire consequences out loud to us, so it is possible that she could have heard about the Commanders. Based on Valeria's general intelligence, she could have guessed that Reed plans to pose as Doom in order to lessen that threat, and so sure, maybe she automatically just adds herself to Reed's plan. But why put Valeria here at all? Given how easily Reed handles the Commanders in only a few pages, or a few minutes in the world of the comic, I have no doubt that he could have restrained Lancer fairly easily. Plus, Doom's armor comes equipped with a force field. We saw it activate when Valeria tried to hug Doom back in issue 25. So while Valeria's protection is surely a welcome gesture, Valeria doesn't need to defend him. Nor does she make any argument to spare Reed that he couldn't have made, or that Lancer wouldn't have just overheard. Remember, she was in the room too, just like Valeria was, and hidden. And there's no emotional connection between the two women either, so Valeria making an argument wouldn't affect Lancer anyways. Valeria looks at Lancer and sees her nanny, yes, but Lancer looks at Valeria and just sees some punk kid that she just met like a couple hours ago. She has no more reason to trust Valeria than she does Reed, and she has no reason to trust Reed at all. So while this scene works, it's not executed all that well. Imagine if this issue wasn't told by focusing on Reed's situation. Like, This would have been a much more dramatic and better played opening if we had focused on the other characters instead. The basic opening could have remained the same, but after the group teleports to the flagship, we could stay with the Fantastic Four. They're in prison and Doom goes off to be alone, leaving Valeria with Lancer, and they look at each other. Something is up and they want to know what. So Valeria uses her cloaking technology to sneak into the room that Doom is in and hear him confess to being Reed Richards. They would then burst out of hiding, but where Valeria is like, "I knew it!" happily, Lancer is like, "I'm gonna kill you, a-hole!" And then, with our emotional stakes clearly established, Reed could explain about the commanders to Valeria, Lancer, and us, and Valeria would agree to help sell the plan, and they would win Lancer over. I don't think that Reed would dodge responsibility for the fate of reborn Earth. I mean, his son made the planet, and they did abandon it. Admittedly, from their perspective, the Fantastic Four did so in order to protect it, but clearly their intentions didn't shape the outcome. And while Lancer would still be steaming, I honestly think that an apology would help. She's been shown to be fairly reasonable. I mean, she's allied with Dr. Doom, despite all of the times that he outright manipulated her. So ultimately, why wouldn't she ally with Reed? Removing Valeria from the story is actually a good move in my opinion, as she is more of a distraction here than an asset. But I don't understand why Doom doesn't explain that he is Reed first, and then asks Sue to send Valeria away. He says that this is a trust thing, that he needs to know that Sue trusts him before revealing his identity, but why? Why not just walk in, say, "Guys, it's me, it's Reed," and then Valeria and Lancer could back him up, and then Ben is like, "Shucks, I knew that back with the hug," and then he asks Sue to send Valeria away. She could even question his identity, and he could reference issue 12, when Reed was working with the Genosians, and they found the body-swapped Fantastic Four, and Sue was in another woman's body. He trusted her then on nothing but blind faith, and he needs her to trust him now. And then boom, moment over, story moment accomplished. I also don't think that Valeria would willingly leave, as she has almost never gone along with a protective action that the Fantastic Four have sought to do to her. Thought I forgot about that point, huh? Nah, I just took the long road around. Reed even sells Valeria leaving by calling her a distraction, that he needs to be an effective member of the Fantastic Four, but he hasn't admitted to being Reed Richards yet, so he's not a member of the Fantastic Four. From the team's perspective, their greatest enemy just revealed that he somehow knows about their secret method of saving Franklin a few days ago before Doom even encountered the Fantastic Four, and he wants to send his daughter to join him, and that he is joining the team. This is a weird moment, and there is just no way that I can reconcile that. I like Ben's relationship with Reed being the reason that he recognized him inside of the armor. I like Sue beginning to trust this maybe not Doom even before she knew that he was Reed, because she could tell unconsciously that it was Reed. I like how efficiently Doom takes down the commanders as well. That's perhaps the biggest overall plot hole to this issue, the threat of the commanders versus how dangerous they actually are. I largely explored this problem earlier, but it does bear a bit of repeating here because we just saw Reed stop them all by himself. He didn't even stretch in this fight. So there is a certain amount of disbelief that we need to suspend in order to continue to enjoy this story. But if you do that, it is an enjoyable story. We also have the sudden addition and explanation that Dorma's armor is letting her breathe outside of water. This has not been established in any previous issues, and in fact, during the Heroes Reborn Doom one-shot, Dorma is specifically drawn wearing a water breather. This isn't a huge thing, but it is a neat idea, especially since I had totally forgotten that she was walking around in open air with no water breather on, but it is a nice point of continuity. It is a nice, simple, clean explanation. This is a nice return. I'm not 100% in love with this issue. It clearly has some flaws for me, but the idea here is so ballsy that I don't really care. The character work was pretty good. The fight scene against the commanders was dope. There was this amazingly cool panel of Technarchs jumping into the air to pounce on Doom, and it just looks great in particular. And actually, the whole issue looks great. But Claremont always seems to open strong. Let's see if he can keep this up. Given that the Fantastic Four are public celebrities in the Marvel Universe, and Doctor Doom is the monarch of a nation, news of their upcoming nuptials quickly leaks. And that is where we open issue 27 with our by now standard creative team of Claremont, Larroca, Thibert, and Liquid. Newspapers and TV reporters are covering the upcoming event, asking where Reed Richards and his son have disappeared to. Given that Sue Storm Richards is already married, can she actually even legally marry Doom? And more importantly, why would she do this? Doctor Doom is the Fantastic Four's greatest enemy, and the world wants to know. The reporters managed to get small clips from the denizens of the Marvel Universe, including superpowered folks like Iron Man, Spider-Man, Captain America, and those more concretely tied to the Fantastic Four, meaning individuals like Namor, the Black Panther, and Alicia Masters. Everyone is pretty skeptical and nervous, and they're hoping that the Fantastic Four know what they're doing. At their home, the Warehouse Pier 4, throngs of paparazzi surround it. Any information on the Fantastic Four is big news right now, and a candid photo is worth money. This leads to a particularly cunning pair of individuals renting wetsuits. They have dived into the Hudson River, and they set up shop outside of Reed's underwater lab. As long as they have air in their tanks, they'll be waiting. They're going to be waiting for a while, though. Inside of the lab, Reed comments that his chameleon glass will display whatever image he likes, including an empty laboratory. No one will see inside unless he wants them to. Reed sits down at a chair, preparing to go to work. He might be trapped in this armor, but it is still just a machine. Surely he can find a way to free himself from it. Unfortunately, his own lab is built to defend against, specifically, Doctor Doom, so Reed can't use any of his own resources. His voice patterns, his retinal scans, his every physical form of data presents as a match to Doctor Doom, so he's on his own. Examining the armor's system interface, Reed appears as himself, and he is trapped inside of a dungeon. Like his lab, the armor is programmed to thwart its creator's nemesis, so it will defend itself against Reed's attempts to remove it. He does his best to thwart the cell that he is in, and he does manage to finally escape it, but when he exits, he is no longer himself. He is still trapped inside of the armor, both mentally and physically. His escape attempt failed. The whole scenario was a deception. Round 1 to Doom. Out in the city, Johnny Storm is pounding down drinks. But don't worry, they're sodas. Spider-Man swings by, checking in given everything that's going down. Before Johnny can answer him, though, a police chase passes them by, so Johnny fires off a bolt of fire. He melts the engine block and stops the car, then the two old friends abscond to a nearby roof to talk. We don't really get to hear their conversation. Claremont just jumps us to the end where Johnny says that he is unsure about the wedding, but what can he do? Spider-Man volunteers to interrupt the ceremony for him. If he wants the wedding stopped, well, they'll stop it. And I just think that image is hilarious. And as much as Johnny wants that, the fate of the world is riding on that marriage happening. They can't stop it. I love that Claremont continues to bring back Johnny's friendship with Spidey. Given how public this wedding debacle is, it makes perfect sense that Spider-Man would check in with his old pal. But the rest of this scene doesn't work nearly as well for me. It's been pretty well established that the paparazzi are hounding the Fantastic Four in this issue. But here is Johnny, leaning on the corner of a building, wearing a shirt with a big 4 on it, and no one seems to give a crap. Sure, his ability to fly does give him an edge in escaping the eyes of the media, but you would think that they would be running him down to get more footage. Heck, the paparazzi running Johnny off of the street would have made more sense than the cop chase, actually, and it would have leaned into the concept of the book more. The other thing that I don't like here is that Claremont outright references the events of Spider-Man Peter Parker, issue 13. We get to see Spidey's inner thoughts, and he laments the recent death of his wife, Mary Jane, so he knows what it's like for family to suffer, comparing Mary Jane's death to Sue marrying Doom. And that's fine, I guess, whatever, but this book is the Fantastic Four's book, Claremont, not Spider-Man's. I don't mind Spidey showing up. I actually like him checking in, but why would you specifically say that this moment happens during that storyline? This is just distracting. Why tell me what happens during it? I don't even know what's going on in Spider-Man. I don't care if Mary Jane is dead right now. I mean, I do care, but not for this book, y'all. That's a whole different matter. And it just stops all of the forward momentum that this issue had going into the wedding. Don't do this. Don't just drop another book's plot lines in the middle of this book's already interesting plot line. What are you doing? The story then goes to the White House, where we find Dr. Valerie Cooper addressing the Committee on Superhuman Affairs about the marriage situation. You remember when Reed and the Fantastic Four were calling the superhuman community about the Chaos Wave? I think it was back in issue 24. Well, they also called the super scientists of the world looking for help, and word got back to the U.S. government. Then, 24 hours after those calls were made, Reed Richards suddenly goes missing, as has his son, and Dr. Doom has just dropped a massive ship into the sky above New York City and announced that he's going to marry Sue Storm Richards and join the Fantastic Four. So the government's worried. The group discusses their potential responses to all of this and the likelihood of danger to the world. Given Doom's history, brilliance, and the 4 allies that he has on that ship, Dr. Cooper concludes that a war between Earth and Doom would destroy the world. That's Claremont telling us 4 times now! I do like this 1-2 punch, though. If a reader was unfamiliar with the last issue of this comic, this moment introduces the marriage idea quickly, sets us up to question the marriage in the Spider-Man scene, and then, if you're like me, right when you're skeptical, Claremont reiterates his point as gravely and realistically as he can, hitting home how serious this is. We have suited, old, boring white people in the White House using boring dialogue and straight-on camera shots to get the point across. That point being that things are super serious, guys. But in any case, this is some super good plotting. Am I sick of hearing about how dangerous things are? Yeah, I sure am. But that doesn't change the fact that this is good plotting. Back in Reed's lab, Sue finds him kneeling on the floor, his head in his hands. He has made no headway in escaping the armor. The programming for it is so advanced that it is almost alive. Every strategy that he uses, the armor learns from and then counters. He's confident that he can eventually beat it, but he has to find a way to outpace its learning curve. Other than that, though, he tells Sue, he's kind of having a blast. Reed has always admitted that Doom was brilliant, but he was also sure that he was smarter than him. But here, he is at his very best, and he is being beaten every time, and the challenge of it thrills him to some degree. He asks how Sue is doing in light of their situation, and she's a bit annoyed at being tabloid fodder. The reporters are watching everything that they do, except for Johnny, apparently, who gets a free pass. The various levels of government have stripped the Fantastic Four of every legal act that they possibly can. This includes their ability to fly over New York City, launch rockets, use a fusion reactor in their warehouse home, and their city approval to live in a warehouse. And the district attorney is threatening criminal charges against Sue if she can't prove that her husband and son are safe and alive. So it hasn't been a great day. Reed didn't think that this marriage thing would have so many long-term consequences for their family and team. Holy crap. There's only one thing that he can do: call off the wedding. Sue talks him out of it, though. They need to go through this. We're Doom's commanders, blah, blah, blah. Everyone dies. Yawn. That's 5 times now. Inspired by each other's devotion and bravery, they decide to press on and settle this all as soon as possible. I love the real-world consideration that Claremont brings to his comics. To us readers, Doctor Doom marrying Sue is just a story. It's an adventure, and it's a weird adventure, sure, but it is an adventure. But to the Marvel Universe, this is a big deal. This is important. And it is cool to see that depth of reality respected within the story itself. We then move to Avengers Mansion, where the Thing is having an impromptu meeting with the Avengers. They're concerned about this Doom business, and Ben basically tells them not to worry. The Fantastic Four have this under control. Justice then brings up the fact that Ben was mind-controlled only like a few days ago, and then the Red Skull did the same thing with the Avengers, back in issues 22 and 23. How do they know that something similar isn't happening here? Ben scoffs at this. Yeah, like they didn't scan him the minute he stepped foot onto their property. Now, he's got things to do, and he stands up here, so he'll just be on his way. But the Avengers can't let him leave yet. There is then a running fight in which the Thing tries to escape the mansion and the Avengers try to stop him. But Ben is more than just a strong dude. He is an experienced adventurer and a former soldier. So he dodges, he uses some treachery, and he makes sure to take down the most dangerous person first, the Scarlet Witch. He manages to bust through a wall, almost reaching the street, but there's Captain America blocking the way. He doesn't want to fight Ben. And Ben doesn't want to fight him. All he's asking for here is some trust, a leap of faith. And isn't that what America is all about? Trusting each other? The two men stare for a second. And then they relax. Okay, Cap says. Let's just not regret this decision. Ben smiles in relief. Yeah, amen to that. At fashion designer Kay Sarah's shop, we next find Sue entering the building with Jennifer Walters and Janet Van Dyne. When they are all swarmed by paparazzi, there the paparazzi are, they're all spying on Sue, the two women transform into their costume identities, She-Hulk and the Wasp. Forcing the crowd back with a combination of muscles and wasp stings, Sue turns invisible and then sneaks inside. She does regret leaving her friends behind, but maybe they'll have some fun harassing the media vultures. Sue looks up and then discovers a parade of potential wedding gowns before her. Kay Sarah is never one to slack off on her work, and this wedding is going to be the wedding of the century. Sue must look her best. But one man wishes that she wasn't going through with this. Namor the Submariner steps out of freaking nowhere with his tiny booty shorts and his firm pecs and his rippling damp muscles. And he offers to save Sue from this marriage. If she were ever to be free, and he means of Reed, then he always thought that they would marry and they would be happy forever. Even if it means going to war, Namor would gladly do it if it meant getting the chance to call Sue his. But she tells him no. She wishes that she could explain, and someday when she can, she will explain. But for now, she asks for his trust. Just have faith in her, please. Begrudgingly, Namor says that he'll do that. He then offers her a necklace, which she puts on. She is wowed by its beauty, but then it fades, vanishing entirely. Namor explains that the necklace is magic. If Sue is ever in danger, all she has to do is return to the ocean. The necklace will keep her safe until he can get to her. They hug, and he whispers in her ear that he will get to her. And that's pretty much it. Reed, as Doom, thanks his family for their trust and faith in him right now. He has never been more humbled or proud of this family. Then we cut to the flagship, where the Fantastic Four, Doom's commanders, and the Avengers as witnesses have gathered. Under Latverian law, the Crown Prince of Latveria can claim any woman as his consort, whether she's married or not. Latverian law also does not recognize divorce. Unless Doom agrees to nullify the marriage himself, Sue Storm Richards will be the Baroness von Doom for the rest of her life. Dr. Doom then places a tiara on her head and announces to the world the new Fantastic Four. There is a really cute moment just before that panel happens that I want to point out. It's just a single panel, so don't worry, this shouldn't take too long. It's set inside of the Yancey Street Saloon, where the wedding is being broadcast on the bar's TV. Sitting at a table in the bar is an artist sketching the wedding, and it is Salvador Larroca. And sitting next to him is author Chris Claremont. A pair of women stand behind them comparing babies, and I believe that these are the men's wives. One of them is called Maria Pilar, and she is also referenced on the cover for this issue, hence my guess that she is Larroca's wife. Off to the side in that panel are two other men, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, the fathers of the Fantastic Four, who warn these youngsters that they better know what they're doing. They're messing with the foundations of the Marvel Universe here. Back when Reed and Sue were originally married, Stan and Jack were kept out of the reception too, like literally in comic. So it's really fun to see that idea being continued here with the marriage of Doom and Sue. So this is a fairly effective step forward in our narrative. Claremont does a really good job of staying focused, for the most part, on just the Fantastic Four. There's no Caldonia to distract us, or Valeria, or gang wars, or interdimensional warlords, or alternate realities. It's just the Fantastic Four and the consequences of their actions. That's really nice. As much as I love Claremont's expanded cast and the potential for stories that they represent, their potential has never been realized, so yeah, that's fine. Just keep us focused on the four. That actually just, where the floop is Bounty? She and Ben were together the night before the Chaos Storm hit. Does she have no interest in this wedding? Or how Ben feels about it? You see, this is the problem with investing me in a character outside of the core group's narrative. There is no reason why Bounty should appear in this issue. If anything, she would clutter things up and make the issue even more crowded, diluting our focus on the Fantastic Four. But now I want her to show up because she cares about the four, and Ben especially, so I don't really understand why she's absent. We have Spider-Man and the Avengers checking in, and they certainly have less of a tangible relationship with the Fantastic Four, so why not Bounty? Keep your narrative clean, folks. Include a character, tell their story, get them out. That way I'm not sitting here wishing for more Bounty where more Bounty isn't needed. I think it's also worth noting that Reed's other old friend, Alyssa Moy, hasn't shown up in a while as well, and I think that she might have some questions as to Reed's fate, But otherwise, this is a nice step forward. The cast is still dealing with the emotional repercussions that Reed replacing Doom has caused, but that's fine. We're going to continue to explore those feelings as the story moves forward. We saw some forward progress in Reed trying to escape Doom's armor, actually getting to see the method of how he's trying to do it, and his failure to do so. So again, that will continue. And then we got to see the wedding happened. Sue is now Baroness of Latveria, and Doom's commander should be satisfied. Despite this issue's problems, I have to say, I really enjoyed it. This is an issue where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. I'm pretty well satisfied by this pair of issues. I've been saying for a while now that Claremont's third year is his best year on Fantastic Four, and I've been very nervous about actually getting to these issues and having to back that statement up, but I do feel like we're on pretty solid footing right here. Next week, the alliance between Dr. Doom and the Fantastic Four has been cemented with a wedding. But will Doom's commanders accept that alliance? Or is their hunger for conquest a more powerful force? Then the Fantastic Four wrestle with the new status quo that is their lives, but the world still needs its heroes, even if one of them is Dr. Doom. It's the all-new Fantastic Four versus an all-new Frightful Four in next week's episode. So join me in a week for Comic Book Breakdown episode 12.23, Honeymoon Blues. Everyone, there are a million podcasts vying for your time and attention, and I'd like to thank you for listening to mine. If you would like to get in touch with me to share a concern, request a series, compliment me, berate me, whatever you like, send me an email at cbbreakdown@gmail.com. Otherwise, thanks for listening.